side here of the big group here that is going on this tour as well. Pan really quick to show you how many people came out. Very good showing. So this is kind of like a little preview of the barn tour if you want to do it. One of the few that you can actually come to and check out, but the rest are, you have to like park by the road because they are working farms. I'm sure this is one of the barns that's only one. Or no, that one. Beautiful gingerbread up there. Beautiful gingerbread.
Well, I have to say it was an absolutely extraordinary place to grow up.
Yeah.
But now that it's the heart of Silicon Valley, if you don't have $3 million in your back
Oh, I know,
pocket,
you
you can't even buy
No.
a condo. So,
No, I
You can't even rent a condo.
a garage.
Maybe.
Yeah.
A lot of people are living in campers on the street.
Yeah, I've lived in the East Coast for 12 years. I made reference to, that's the Pierce Landis barn. The reason you're seeing the framework is that the wall supporting the bank that went up to it had collapsed. As a result of that erosion of the upper part of the bank, there was water intrusion that had rotted out the sill and has destroyed the retaining wall. So we're rebuilding the wall, the structural wall, replacing the sill, and rebuilding the walls to rebuild the bank. We use that barn for hay storage as well as support of the farm and garden program. So again, what's cool from here is you see the relationship of the Landis farms. Pierce, Isaac, and then Henry and George and their family. And what's cool about this, and we don't really talk about it, is that anywhere you go with family farms in Lancaster County and the surrounding area, you're going to see these spatial relationships between each other. We here at the museum, there are so many stories we can talk about because we are the State Museum to Pennsylvania German history. It means we talk a little bit about a lot of things, but don't take a deep dive into broader subjects. So what's cool about this is walking into the landscape, you can begin to see the site in a completely new perspective. So, Isaac Landis House, 1875. This is going out in this direction here. Art, I don't know if you're here, but here you can see the relationship between the house, and if you'll step this way, you can very easily see the relationship between the house and the barn. We have a bank barn. My background's architectural history too.
Okay, great.
So, but again, what I like about this, I've worked in the heritage sector for my entire career. Prior to coming to the state, I had 34 years with the National Park Service. I'll let you in on a little secret. What drives me crazy sometimes as a museum professional is that when we go to the site of a famous person, where that site has been lived in for many generations by other people, we often always look at the period of the famous person, the period of significance, which means in the restoration of the house, all of the generations and the stories from others are removed. So, our story is the lens of the multi-generations of the Lancases who talk about Pennsylvania German history. What I love about this is you see all of the additions from all of the other generations to add on more barn as the family grew and their horticultural enterprises grew. So you can kind of get a sense of what up here. You can still see the core of the barn with this gable end and that gable end. But then we see an addition to the rear, an addition here. But what's really cool about this is that that tower is an intact early 20th century feed mill that either the last generation of Lancases or the first generation of Lancases built to support an expanding agricultural industry. Also, look across the way. One of the things that frustrates me is we don't have a lot of detailed information on our borders. They're building another barn. I don't know if you would call this a bank barn or not, but you can definitely see even that has alterations. We have an early 20th century brick alteration, and then the last generation of the Hesses, what I love, built this lean-to. That's a farm shop for one of the last big enterprises the Hesses had were poultry. And one of the outbuildings were missing that we tore down because they were falling down were very large mid-20th century This isn't in the book. It's unrestored. This is the heart of our maintenance facility. But I wanted to show you this just because, to me, it is another iteration of Barnes and Lancaster, starting with its core and adding on to the types and structures that I don't know what you can see what you see here. The other thing is, before we leave, I'll take you to the other side and we can poke your head in where the people is.
I wanted to mention one thing.
we can actually do is that watch your step up on the
He's talking
bank.
about if you look up
Go
there,
into
if
the
you look up
barn,
there
and you'll see part of the
at the weather
detail
vanes
that
and
is
the rods,
inserted on
that's
your
what he's
right and
mentioning.
on your left. Please watch your step.
So we're about to enter inside. So this is going to be a treat because I've never seen inside of this barn. They probably don't even open this very often as well. Letting the group come in.
Storage areas, but it also kind of is cool. We're in the heart of what would have been the original bank barn. You get a sense, if you've been in bank barns, of the joists, but you can get a sense with the windows here, a tin roof, and then the addition of this is how it was changed and adapted over time. For me and for you, this is a treat. Again, technically, you're in our maintenance shop / museum storage. So nobody ever gets to see this. We're also seeing some wagons that are part of our museum collection. In 1941, when George and Henry opened up their stone tavern and their gun shop, in 1941 they were telling Lancaster newspapers that they had amassed 200,000 objects in their museum collection. We have continued to collect. We do not know the actual individual number of every single piece, but we know it's at least 200,000. You name a household or an agricultural or anything else implement, I can probably tell you that we have one in our collection. Henry and George collected every facet of agricultural implements. They had a great fascination with wheel implements, generic and regionally made carts, wagons, hay wagons. They also greatly respected the ingenuity of the Pennsylvania Germans. We have 7 Conestoga wagons in our collection. So you can see one of the wagons. One of the pieces that's really unusual that I love, and actually we found probably this piece in an article from either 1940 or 1941. It's from their collection. It is a treadmill for a dog. It's got a flywheel, and you can get a heavy dog like a Newfie on it and churn butter. So when we talk about them being fascinated by their background, because they're living in an era of vast mechanization of agriculture and agriculture change, that's part of what drove them, is to collect material culture representative of their Mennonite and Pennsylvania German past. So between the buildings, the equipment, it all comes together to create this one-of-a-kind institution of Landis Valley.
There's
Yeah.
Do you have any information on the seat
Possibly. I'd have to look at I'd have to look at our database. I would just call it the Landis Valley Seat Cleaner. Unfortunately, a lot of our records go back
So this, let me kind of stand over. I asked that reason because if he knew, that's blinding. I'm sorry, let me just stand, because I want to look out at you and I don't also want to be blinded. So there are some very telltale signs of when this building was built, meaning within about 20 years, possibly 30 years. The rafters, I am nearsighted, so I can't see the peak. It's very likely that these milled rafters are not pegged at the top. Can anybody see that? I don't know if you have a ridge board up there, but that is a very distinctive thing. When rafters are pegged at their top ends, that very often means it was built prior to about 1880. Could be 1870, could be 1890. But it went from a peg condition to a non-peg condition, okay? We won't get into all the reasons for that. Now, if you look, this is a bent, B-E-N-T. It goes from the rear wall all the way to the front wall. B-E-N-T, it's a transverse framing unit, and this unit, in all likelihood, I mean, I have to look at a lot of the details, so to speak, but it was very likely put up as one unit. It was horizontal on the deck, and then it was raised to a vertical position, and that is a framing unit or a bed. You'll notice that all the ties, this is the first barn that I've ever seen that has an upper tie that consists of laminated wood pieces. I've never seen that once. So that's a new thing for me. Of course, we hear that all the time. It's possible, but again, you'd have to look at it very carefully to know that. But you'll see that none of the timbers are hewn. They're all sawn or milled, okay? That, to this extent, and the basically small size of the timbers signifies that it was built after 1890 or maybe 1900 or so. There are peg connections up there, okay? Now this here is called the overden. It means over the den or Iowa den, okay? Over the den. The den is the threshing floor. And so this top edge right here, and I couldn't find my laser pointer, I'm sorry. But from that point, at the top of this girt here, not the very top, but this girt is probably around 12 feet. That 11 to 12 foot height above a wagon floor in almost any barn in the Northeast maintains that distance. You have to have loaded hay wagons come in and distribute the farm crops in the end bay, and I guess, I don't even know, this is a 3 or 4 bay barn, I'm not sure. But in any event, so almost unquestionably, my own opinion, this barn was probably built around 1900 to 1920, around that time frame. Now, these are not original to the barn. All this, okay. That implies something. If you have a barn and they're building and they establish themselves and it's there for 30 or 40 years or so, and they say, hey, let's do this. Let's put these extra structures in here. David used that word accretion before. It's not really an accretion, it's an addition, but an accretion is more of a building addition to an existing building. Okay, that must be a ladder of some kind right there.
Looks like it.
I would guess, maybe not. The so-called rungs are pretty far apart. That implies that there are other buildings present on the homestead. Okay, why would you build a barn? Of course, they may not have had not the foresight, but the advanced thinking that eventually we're going to put these things in the end bays. That implies that there are other storage capacity buildings on the homestead. So one thing shifts in relation to another. It's always relativity, here or there or wherever. Okay. Another thing that shows no, that's not true. I've seen barns built after about 1890, 1900 that had floorboards. Almost guaranteed these floorboards are mostly original. The first 6 or 8 or 10 feet actually are not. And that was, why were those replaced and not here? Why? Well, yeah. Well, why didn't they wear out here? Pardon? Right, rain. Everybody hear that? Rain. It rained, it snowed, it came in, it deteriorated, and I've seen hundreds and hundreds of barns like that, but not at the front of the barn. okay, this compartment right here, this room area is a granary, okay? The granaries very often, but not always, were placed at the front of the barn, not the rear of the barn. And there's a door actually leading outside on the end wall. I don't know how many of you saw that there, but that was to have access to the granary. The granary has a front passageway, and then it has grain bins in the back of it. Now, not all grain bins were created equal. Now, there's another thing here I'm looking at. Is that upper tie on that end wall, is that also laminated?
The one that's slanted.
The one that's at the top.
No, I see. I can't tell it this light.
Yeah, okay. I think
It's raining light, so
Yeah.
it's hard to see.
Yeah. Well, we see that this upper tie is laminated, so that's the first thing.
Looking up. I shouldn't do that.
And now, when I said an extended barn before, on the top,
I won't look up.
this would make this an extended barn. Now, if it's very modern, it's still technically an extension, but that's what I meant before, when you have the main barn section, and then there's an extension. It could be an extension on the rear, it could be an extension on either end, okay, but that's an extension. So this technically is an extended barn. The other thing I wanted to, still, they maintain the built-in ladder right here. Okay, you'll see that this has no pegs here. It has pegs up there, but there's no pegs here. Why? Because this girth here, and this timber right here, this one was in all likelihood ham. In other words, it was cut out so this could be received into it. So it weakened this timber a lot, but altogether they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish.
Is this that lawn that's drafted this structure here?
You mean the metal?
Yeah.
Probably. Maybe not, but probably.
Judging from the lumber that's used in this enclosure, this may be part of the later additions related to this construction.
Yeah.
Again, part of the problem is that we would like to hire an architectural history firm to do a thorough study of this in all of our barns. We know the house was built in 1875, so it's likely that there was some kind of barn associated with the house. But as you're saying, what we're looking at seems to be 25 years later. So it's hard to say. Anyway.
Well, my guess is that there were probably 3 generations of barns here. This is probably early. When was the land first settled here? At this specific?
At this specific spot, I mean, the end of the 18th, the first quarter of the 19th century.
Okay. That seems late, actually.
There may be earlier settlement, but I'm only talking within the boundaries of the museum. Closer to some of the watersheds, we know there's older settlements going out in the core of the museum. The oldest piece is really the late 18th century.
The really interesting thing about architecture, making comparisons between certain elements as opposed to other elements in either earlier or later buildings, is that 1875 is a perfect date. I don't even know the building. So why would I, and I'm not trying to question David at all, but why would I totally agree with that? And I saw one simple little thing there. Why would that be? Anybody know what one thing is just a telltale sign of late 1860s into the early 1880s? If you look at the door and the windows, the top rail piece is not straight across. It's like that. Okay, it's pointed. And that is a telltale sign of a house. Even some barns too, many barns actually, that signify that date. So it's a beautiful thing to just look at one feature, one lousy feature, and be able to tell within about 10 to 15 years of when it was built. So that was right smack in the middle of
Great.
1875.
So you're welcome to see the barns in the book. The log barn is out this way to the right. The yellow barn is open today. And then you'll see what we call the federal barn, very steeply peaked roof behind our oldest brick farmhouse to my right.
Can we get into the log barn?
Yeah.
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 Is it open now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to head over. I've never been in the log barn. Anybody who wants to join me, please do so.
There's some calcifying ox poo in
And that adds to the story.
from pre-COVID, but yeah, it's
And the
open.
spirit. And the spirit.
So again, watch your step out, but like I said, I want to make sure next week game that you saw this really special. Some of them were built.
Oh, I know which one we're going to now at the end of the row here to the left. So there's the J.W. Epley Shoeing and Blacksmith Shop. Now this is not original here, this was brought here, I believe. Yeah, it was brought from Gettysburg, from the Gettysburg area.
Everyone, I'm going to stop at the house and just show you something that I just spoke about 5 minutes ago. Come on up. So, which one of you brave souls will give a date, a circuit date of this house?
1870.
Why?
The windows there again.
Not the windows, the window trim. Yes, the top. See that? It goes like that. Houses and barns are like that, okay? Now, but why are they not on the end wall? They're on the front wall, but not on the end wall.
Because you didn't really see that. This was to impress people.
Yes, there's a term that came out of the University of Delaware, and it's called the hierarchy of finish. And the hierarchy of finish exists on the exterior of buildings, but especially houses, and also the inside. Where you had guests come into the house, you'd see all this fancy filigree, you go to the other side, where the family would much more occupy, and it would be much more simple.
Our house is brick, and it's 1870, and on the side that everyone saw when they came in, the mortar joints are what they call a butter joint. It's very thin.
Yes.
And on the rest of the way around the house, it was a little sloppier.
Yes, right,
basically. Yeah.
right. And that very thin mortar between the bricks, that implied opulence.
Yeah.
So there were statements that were made back then. They had egos just like we have egos.
Right.
Especially if you're a Yankee fan.
We're about to see a picture of the Landis barn that was moved over here prior to its move, but you can see the side elevation of what George and Henry did. You can clearly see how they installed clear-story windows, or those are called clear-story windows, to provide light into the central portion. Again, that was absolutely chock-filled to the rafters of their stuff. But on the exhibit panel here, you'll see an image of an original piece of art that shows that barn in its original construction and original location.
Black walnut. Beautiful little garden right here. Just for pretty. So I believe he's talking about the info board right up here. And I think we're gonna hit there's the information board he was speaking of. Farmstead.
The image you'll see here is circa 1850. And you see the brick house, and then you see the addition, the Grossmutter house, and then here is the Jacob Landis and Elizabeth Landis barn in its original location. So George and Henry purchased this property in the late 19th century, and then 25 years later, again, they disassemble the barn and then they reassemble it over there. This is another one of our barns. That's contemporary. That's mid-20th century. It was built during the time period when the state was horses once again. We have one now, darn it. But you can see how steeply pitched the roof is. I don't know the history and why decisions were made to build it there and build it in that style, but it was built to support the program. And although the original barn was here, that's no less a button. So I think the thought was they wanted to provide some visual connection to what would have been the oldest farmhouse preserved to a barn. But I think what Paul's really interested in is our barn over here. From walnuts to apples, rotting apples, please watch your step.
Snake fence. Oh, yeah, there's the apples are gone here, but there's still a few up here on the tree. Probably pretty much nearly past their prime, but I'm sure they could take them, press them, and turn them into cider if they wanted to, with the remaining ones that are on the tree hanging there. There's a lot on the ground here. Yeah. A whole bunch of apples. Oh, you gotta watch.
Before we go into the barn, just a little bit of a context is that if you know a little bit about architecture, everything that we're looking at is 19th century. So the state became very cognizant is that if we're the Museum of Pennsylvania German History, we have nothing here structurally that relates to the first waves that came out. So money was procured, designs were procured, and in the early 1970s, probably purposely built in time for that special anniversary in 1976, was what we call the log farm, to provide a tangible connection to the 18th century story. Is this authentic? No. But it does give you an idea of the cluster of outbuildings that a family would have built with the barn, the log cabin. We have a bake oven, a garden, a pigsty, and a sheep pen. So today it really stands out as you go through the site as something that separates itself from the rest of the site, and it plays an important role in talking about, hey, you sort of get a continuity. I mean, you go into the cabin and there's 3 rooms. You go into the brick house, there's 3 rooms. But architecturally,
building is concerned. This is called a double log crib ground barn, or Grundeschire. Okay, ground barn, Grundeschire, or a bottomshire, or bottom shear. Okay, you'd have, now I don't know where this came from. I don't know if anything is original on it at all. Those logs that extend out beyond each other at the corners, those are called crowned logs. Okay, I don't know how prevalent they were. You wouldn't find them. You wouldn't find the logs on the end wall above the eave level. Okay, you wouldn't find that. A very small three-door barn. It's probably no more than about 22, maybe 24 by 32, something on that order. The farms were small then, or the tillable acres were quite small. They may have had 300 acres, but you're not going to develop 300 acres. As far as that's concerned, early on, you're going to develop maybe 5 to 10 or something like that. And it would be a self-sustained business kind of affair. So that was this barn. The notching at the end varies quite a bit. There's dovetail notching, there's full dovetail notching, and there's half dovetail notching, among a few other parts in the eastern United States. The farther west you go from, say, the Lehigh Valley, the farther west you go, the more and more dovetailing of corner notching you see. The farther east you go, you find V-notching. It's not exclusive, but you see more and more of the kind in the west, more and more of the kind as you go east. The roof here, now let me make sure, okay, the roof here, the house, okay, has what's called German side lap shingling, or shingles. Okay, that was probably used very early on, up until maybe, and there could be exceptions in the 1820s or 1830s. There's still some, there's a barn in Franklin County. It's the Henneberger Schweitzer, which is in the book, actually, and it's not in the heart, but I put it in there anyway because it's so important. That has about 70% of its original side lap shingles intact, but it's not exposed. It was replaced, or it was topped off by another roof cover. Okay, so you see that. Now that is not a center chimney German style house. I see it again and again and again. They say it's center chimney, center chimney. I don't see any center chimney there. It's off center chimney. Some of the early German 3-room plans did have a center chimney, but many of them did not. This is an off center thing because you had a 3-room plan, of which was the kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom or the chamber. The kitchen was anywhere from about 8 or 9 feet wide to up to about 11 feet wide, and therefore, since the building was a good 25 to 28 or more feet wide, you'd have to have an off-center chimney. You couldn't have a center chimney, and that's what that is. The bake the circa 1760 house has almost all of its original red tiles on the one roof slope, and a number of them on the other one, but especially on the one roof site. Now this odd structure is called a hay barrack. Okay, it's a 4-posted hay barrack. It sits in front of a Chinese chestnut, which makes you certain what that is. As farm crops were added to the structure, some people say it was a special farm crop. Other people say it was a surplus farm crop. That roof structure, you see the pyramidal roof structure here, that was raised and raised. You see that pin right there. Holes are about 12 inches in separation. That's a very consistent measurement. Not all the time. called a temple, where it was a jack, basically a jack,
I
and
think
it would
in
be
that
raised as
particular
you went up.
corner, Landis owner sold that farmstead to Hess.
Why don't we go in the barn?
Landises began to multiply, and there are other generations.
I'm missing the one you call this a double?
Double log crib. Double log crib.
Well, my understanding is that this was part of a master plan and then it was built together under state jurisdiction. I have not seen the records that go behind it. My understanding is that all of these are purpose-built, using materials that were available at the time. But the tradition of this place, the blacksmith shop was moved here from Gettysburg. The one-room schoolhouse was moved from Leola. I don't know enough about the history of the barn in particular to know if they were able to procure wood from an existing barn. It's probably in the plans somewhere, but
When was it moved here? Or when was it put here? Placed here?
the early 1970s.
Okay, okay, yeah. So one gentleman just asked me, well, what's the double log? What does that mean? This is a log crib right here. This part right here is a log crib, meaning it's a crib and it's four log walls, okay? The end wall, and then this wall, and then the interior log wall, and then the back wall. So it's a double log crib construction. Okay. Most often, again, this was used. They used oak for this. Not all the time. I know of log barns and other log structures, other buildings that were made totally of walnut, which is kind of amazing and all. But this is how you can just see. You know, when you first started. I don't know if this is a good analogy. When you first start out your family, you don't have 10 kids. You have 1 or 2. You know, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, you have the small amount of acreage, and this is a darn small barn. Look at the barn that we went in 1900, 1910. Now look at this one. But this is very similar to what we would have found in 1710 or 1720. It didn't need big. Now, everybody that, you know, I've been looking at barns in Pennsylvania since 1974 or 1975, and I've only ever found 24 log ground barns that consisted either of pure log or log and frame. A few, 1 or 2 were log and stone, actually. So that's how rare they are. There was enormous numbers of log ground barns all over the place, but they became outmoded. They were essentially medieval-like. You didn't need that small cramped space, so they got expanded to the magnitude of a night barn, or even much bigger log barn.
So if we go around and go into the bay over here from the
I don't know what that is. Do you know what that is? I can't, I looked, I saw that. I don't know. It could be a ladder of some sort. I don't know.
The unofficial term is thingamajigs.
Yeah.
Well, there's an official term for this thing.
Now, you want to see the bar release.
Right,
Now this thing,
just on the regular tour, but hopefully it's something special for us that they're doing.
When Martha had her barn repaired, they had a local section do it. He had a name for that latch. And they're pretty precise. They have to come in and wiggle around.
Everyone, this is a good shot or a view of the roof structure. You can see how they're side lapped, not unlike other, and the house too. They're side lapped. They go from side to side to side rather than from top to bottom. That's a really interesting thing.
I didn't realize that too until you just pointed it out.
You have one interesting thing about the barn. I don't know if they maintain that. One of the interesting things about the barn is this ceiling is way too high. Okay, way too high. It's probably about a good 2 feet above that with the mouth. Right? But you had ceilings on either large crib at different heights. And that's very consistent. And why would that be?
Just a second,
Anybody? Why would you have
This was the oxen barn and the oxen pasture, so it was actually actively used to store.
Did you see the barn?
Oh, nice. No, I missed it.
Inside there.
Yeah.
Would last for maybe 25 to 30 years or so. And you can see that this is almost at the end of its lifetime. Okay?
Says the bakery oven.
This side is a lot worse than the other side. Yeah, more the weather. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
You remember the wood in our barn? I remember there was wood on the north side, slate on the south side.
So we're gonna go inside this building now. So in a way you're getting a partial tour of the even though it's not a barn itself, it's barn related, but it's a home.
I know, I don't think so.
They have beautiful. redware. Bunch of redware over there. They would hang the pots right off of here.
Right here, so we have the cook room, back
Oh.
up there. This is the living room. I don't know where the partition wall would have been exactly.
Oh my gosh.
That, right there, is a 5-plate stove, okay? So you have the fireplace on the other side, you'd have an opening, and the heat would be transferred to here, and then by radiant energy, of course, it would dissipate into the room. There is one house in the German culture in North America, namely Fredericksburg, in Maryland, that actually has, and I'll tell you why it was saved the way it was, is we actually have a 5-plate stove in its original location. And it was propped up just like this is, okay, that 15-inch block at the bottom. There's still some surviving original support blocks that you'll see in certain collections or so. These were built from about the late 1720s or so, the 1720s, and they're not just in southeast Pennsylvania and beyond in the state. They're up in New York State. The Palatinates settled in the Mohawk River Valley and the Schoharie River Valley. They also had these, but it went basically from the 1720s probably into the 1760s, maybe the 1770s. And sorry. Come on. Anyway, the one guy in Bucks County, he wrote a book called The Bible in Iron, and he went crazy with, and this is, we're talking from 1895 to about 1925. And if anybody knows
Mercer?
of course, Henry Mercer, right. And he wrote this book, and he included many examples of 5-plate stoves. These 5-plate stoves were produced, of course, at various iron works, the foundries, and they had biblical motifs on the front and the sides, and they were really pieces of folk art, as far as I'm concerned. They were very often dated. Maybe they were always dated. I don't know. I know a guy who lives about 4 miles from me, and he had a 1790s house, and he found a plate, one of the 5 plates of the 5-plate stove that was at an earlier place, that was at an earlier site at that homestead, and it was concealed in the back of the fireplace. It was all covered up, but they had that there, and that dated from 1742, 43 or so. So these kinds of things existed, and they're wonderful pieces.
Why is it called a 5-plate stove?
Because there's 5 plates. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5.
It's 1749 now.
Is that 1749? Yeah, 49. Yeah, that's pretty close to the middle of the period.
Okay. One of the things that's so cool about our region, prior to coming here to Landis, I was the site director for Hopewell Furnace National Storage Site, is that southeastern Pennsylvania was the center point for iron manufacturing throughout the 18th century and through the Rev War. So English colonial entrepreneurs who know the business are casting stoves with German and with biblical for the German market, but they're coming from English in Chester County, in Berks County, in Montgomery County, to be sold all throughout the region.
Well, think about that. There's a story, kind of a parallel story, but nothing to do with 5-plate stoves. But the Dutch, the Holland Dutch, built Bombay furniture. It's a curved type of furniture. It looks like a fat piece of furniture. It has a belly to it, but they're curved. And if you could build one of these Bombay pieces of furniture, it separated the men from the boys. And when they were found, I don't know when they were found, or at least recognized and identified as something special. Where were they found? In and around Boston. Now figure that one out. So anyway, your story reminded me of
Yeah, and this is part of what we do, is we came here to talk about barns and talking about cabins and plate stove, but as you begin to expand the world, you begin to see how much of, whether it's construction, culture, material, or all of them are linked together to build these complexes. I'm really cognizant of your time. It's 12:20. You've spent a good part of the morning with us. If you want, as we walk back towards the firehouse, we have a rental tonight in the Yellow Barn. Someone's setting up a wedding, but that may be a good place to end because we have some pictures of when the barn was used as the museum by George and Henry. It gives you a really good idea as to why they made the decisions they made to reconstruct it as they constructed it. And it's just curving around here, then you walk across the courtyard, you're back at the firehouse.
One last thing, this hole right here is called a niche or niche, and they weren't all devoted to holding a lighting device, but often they were, Betty lamps were used there, and candles and things to light up the place. There would actually these in barns called prairie boxes, but they look similar, but they certainly weren't for holding a fire source of any kind, not in the barn.
Not in the barn.
Okay.
My grandfather's house in Duquesne had a niche. Oh, did you go in?
So here's the 5-panel stove that he was talking about. The 5-plate.
Well, in that church, right, they had stalls and right.
Chamber pot right next to my foot. The bed. So that would be the stairways up to the second floor, I believe. Unless it was a closet, but. Oh, okay. The process of doing flax. Turning it into a thread. Stairs to the second floor there. So the stairs to the second floor are right behind here on the wall there. I thought they were in the other corner, so I was right. The other one was a closet, but the stairways are right behind this wall here. It's hard to see it. Maybe look through the crack right there.
Collection, and they sell their museum to the state in 1948. You're in the heart of it. So here's the Yellow Barn that we keep referencing. But also in 1940, they connect with a rich German industrialist from Reading who owned the Berkshire Knitting Mills, Oberlander. And through the Charles Schurz Foundation, Oberlander provides money for the Landises to build the tavern, the gun shop, and then these two wings. So when they opened them in 1941, it's a big splash because the museum is expanding. They incorporated in 1941, and if you had been here, the sheds had their wagons. The tavern had the library on the second floor, part of their collections on the ground floor. The gun shop had their gun collection. George was an inveterate collector of firearms, not just Pennsylvania German long rifles, but all sorts of small firearms. So the one thing about the reconstruction of the barn is that we know they disassembled it. We know they rebuilt it, but did they use plans? Were they working with a builder? How much did they have to insert of new material? we don't have the documentation to show it than knowing that this was a purpose-built barn and then repurposed for their museum. If we watch your step in the back stair, if we go up to inside the front, I'll show you the panel with the historic pictures of the museum. Please don't touch. This is somebody's wedding.
So have you heard, right, they're using it as a venue right now for the night for a wedding. So they rented this barn out for special occasions, as they call it. And right now they're in the process of setting up the event here. Wow. You can see the mortises there. Wow. Has so much light. This would have not had that many windows before.
We have this front appendage, and that created the asymmetry.
So right here's the information board.
Fascinating about the construction here is that you saw the construction in the first barn with mortise and tenon joints. You get a sense of that. Well, look at the joints here and here. You get a sense of their being repurposed. Here are the two pinholes. This is for joists. So you can see it here. You can see it over there. But also you see, for those of you that are farmers, how completely illogical a barn like this would be for agricultural uses. But if you look at the placard over here, these are all historic pictures from the 40s of the way the brothers incorporated their collection here. So every space would have been covered with saws and signs and tables and shelves with agricultural implements, household implements, everything. No labels, just stuff. I think broadly categorized by use, but with the brothers here to connect you to the material they collected. But it's so fascinating to know that these joists were used in a way similar to the first barn we saw, and now you get an opportunity to see how they were completely reimagined to something wildly different, but still barn-like for the brothers' use.
I can't say too much about the building itself. It was obviously a lot of repurposed timbers and everything like that. But one thing we haven't seen yet is what we call carpenter marks or marriage marks. Okay, so who here has ever heard of a person having their left arm placed into their right shoulder? Well, that's silly. Why would I say something like that? Well, when you're building a barn, you're building any timber frame structure, the one timber is meant for another. One is meant for another. There's an alignment here, and here we have two marriage marks right here. You can see that there's a chisel mark right here, and two flag or fleck marks right here. So you can see this is here, and that's there. Okay, these two fleck marks meant that it was probably the second bent or internal framing unit, the transverse framing unit. Okay, and why do we know that this is part of a bent? In all likelihood, anybody? Well, you'd have to see it. Okay, enough of that game playing. We have holes right here. Okay, 2-inch diameter holes, and they're separated by, not on this side, but on this side, and they're separated by about 12 inches. Built-in ladder, and I know that because below this was the Moustead wall. If you have a book, you can see what a Moustead wall was. Okay, we know that doubly because of the nail holes here. Now, I hope I'm not going to get a liar, but here these these horizontal boards came across here. Wherever this came from, the horizontal boards came here and they were nailed onto this from about 4.5 feet and down to the floor. Okay, so this is a perfect thing. It's also a pine, which is very interesting. I don't know where they got this from. There are not many pine barns anywhere in southeast Pennsylvania. This is very likely white pine. How do you know it's white pine? Because basically you can take your hand and rub it over it, and no splinters come up. And that's a function of the summer. There's any annual growth ring, you have spring wood and summer wood. And if the transition between the two is very abrupt, then it's splintery, like hemlock, like hard pine here. But here, you know, I don't want to do it because there can be some exceptions. But you can rub your hand up and down there, and that says it's white pine. Okay? So anyway, that is, I don't know what it is on the other timbers here, but that was a bent timber, almost unquestionably. And these two holes here are for the warnises for the lower partial bone length girths that went out. That's what you have.
So I can say you definitely learn something new every day. I had no idea that Mark existed, so thank you. You can see a little sign that was originally put up by the brothers. Jacob Landis Barn, built 1814 by the founder of Landis Valley, rebuilt 1939. So it's rebuilt in 39, and then in 41 the other building. So from 41 to when they sold in 48 and we opened in 55, this again was the core of the building. Oh, yeah.
There's an interesting thing about horseshoes. Supposedly, and I've seen exceptions to this, the horseshoe, if it was like this, like a regular U, meant English. If it was inverted like this, it was German. And yet I've seen horseshoes on, who knows when they were applied on the door, of both this and that. So what do you make out of that? I don't know. I'm not sure.
So you're all now the barn experts, Landis Valley. Appreciate you sticking with us.
And I'm going to show you the inside of the building here really quick. Obviously, in some pieces, supports have been replaced over time. Beautiful. Brick floor.
What year she bought the George Danner collection of Matt? Were they?
Black walnut all over the place.
Did you shoot any of the barns too?
Hmm?
Did you shoot some of the barns? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
How many did you shoot?
All of them.
Did you? Yeah.
Pretty much all of them.
Okay. Yeah, I did about close to 2,000 of them myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean the
Yeah,
ones
yeah,
on the
yeah, I mean
tour?
these. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Yeah, yeah, they're very nice.
That's another reason why I came, because
Yeah.
I mean, like he said,
right.
you see them and you just
I
drive
know,
by them.
I
You don't
know, I
know
know.
any
Yeah.
of the historic
Right.
significance of any
Yeah.
of these. But now I could go
Yeah. Oh yeah.
start shooting each one and do a little bit.
Absolutely. You have what kind of camera you shoot with? Just this?
This on my cell phone, pretty
Okay.
much.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So this is the outside of the yellow barn. We were just in there. Oh, and we got to watch it because now trees are releasing some of the walnuts and they can lop you in the head pretty good. That gentleman was asking me that was on the tour if I've shot any of the other bills. No, not yet. Came here because they had this. I purchased this book that has the Lancaster County Barn Tour